Picture this: Jason Kelce, the guy who chugged beers on parade floats, won a Super Bowl, and became America's favorite football uncle, just looked at the Cleveland Browns and said what every fan is thinking but too scared to whisper: "You're in serious trouble." And somewhere in Cleveland, an owner is allegedly losing his mind over it. But here's the kicker: Kelce isn't wrong. And by the end of this video, you'll see exactly why this quarterback decision might be the biggest mistake Cleveland makes all season. Stick around, because what I'm about to reveal about their QB room will shock you. When Jason Kelce talks, the NFL listens. This isn't some hot take artist chasing clicks. This is a Super Bowl champion with a podcast empire who just called out the Browns' entire quarterback strategy. And the timing? Brutal. We're talking about a team that just named 39-year-old Joe Flacco as their Week 1 starter, a guy who didn't take a single preseason snap, while two promising rookies, Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel, sit on the bench watching their careers stall before they even start. But there's something deeper happening here that nobody's talking about. Something that explains why the Browns owner is reportedly fuming behind closed doors and why this decision could haunt Cleveland for years. Because what if I told you this isn't really about Joe Flacco at all? What if this entire quarterback controversy is actually exposing a much bigger problem with how the Browns make decisions? And what if Jason Kelce just lit the fuse on something that's been building all season? Let's start with the elephant in the room. Joe Flacco as your Week 1 starter in 2024 is like bringing a flip phone to a smartphone convention. Sure, it technically works, but everyone's staring at you wondering what century you're living in. Here's what's really happening. The Browns are playing scared. They've got two young quarterbacks with legitimate talent, Shedeur Sanders, who's got accuracy that would make Tom Brady jealous, and Dillon Gabriel, the quiet assassin who's been lighting up practice, and instead of giving either one a real shot, they're hiding behind a 39-year-old security blanket. But here's the part that should terrify Browns fans. Flacco didn't earn this job. He inherited it by default. While Sanders and Gabriel were grinding through preseason, taking hits, making plays, and showing flashes of brilliance, Flacco was, where exactly? Watching from the sidelines like a coach with cleats. And that's exactly what Jason Kelce called out. He basically said, "You've got potential sitting right there, and you're choosing the guy who's already written his retirement speech. What are we doing here?" But wait until you hear what's really going on behind the scenes. Because there's one detail about this quarterback situation that changes everything, and it explains why the owner is reportedly so angry about Kelce's comments. I'll reveal that in just a minute. Let's talk about what this decision really says about the Browns organization. This isn't just about quarterbacks, it's about philosophy. It's about whether you're building for tomorrow or desperately clinging to yesterday. Look around the league. Teams like Houston are letting rookies cook and cashing in on that energy. Washington is rolling with Jaden Daniels. Even teams with veteran options are finding ways to develop their young talent. But Cleveland is asking fans to get excited about Joe Flacco handing off to Nick Chubb 40 times a game, except Chubb's injured. Think about the message this sends to the locker room. You've got Myles Garrett in his prime, giving you Defensive Player of the Year energy every single week. You've got weapons on offense. You've got a defense that can shut down entire drives. And your quarterback strategy is, let's hope the 39-year-old doesn't break. Here's what's really brutal. Shedeur Sanders has played in front of 80,000 screaming fans with cameras rolling and legacy on the line, and he never flinched. You think facing the Bengals in Week 1 would rattle him? Please! This kid was built for moments like this. And Dillon Gabriel? He's the ultimate professional. No drama, no headlines, just pure football IQ and consistency. The kind of quarterback who doesn't make SportsCenter, but wins locker rooms in games. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is the part that allegedly has the Browns owner seeing red. Because Jason Kelce didn't just question their quarterback choice. he exposed something much more damaging about how this organization operates. When Kelce made those comments, he wasn't just talking football. He was talking about organizational courage. And that hit different because everyone knows he's right. The Browns have been stuck in this same cycle for years: quarterback musical chairs, panic decisions, and missed opportunities. They've started 30 quarterbacks in 20 years. 30! At what point do you stop making the same mistakes and start taking calculated risks? Here's the real kicker. They have 2 first-round picks next year, including Jacksonville's, which could be top 10. So if this season goes sideways with Flacco, and let's be honest, that's not exactly a long shot, they might be staring at another high draft pick in a quarterback-loaded class. But here's the problem with that strategy. What happens to Sanders and Gabriel? What happens when you waste an entire year of development because you were too scared to see what you actually have? And this is where Kelce's comments really stung. Because he essentially said, "You're wasting time." And time is the one thing this team doesn't have. Not with Garrett in his prime. Not with the AFC getting stronger every week. Not with Cincinnati, Kansas City, Baltimore, and Buffalo sharpening their playoff knives while Cleveland sits around wondering if Joe Flacco can still run a 2-minute drill. Look, if you're a Browns fan, you've been through this before. You've watched promising quarterbacks get mismanaged. You've seen potential wasted. You've endured decades of what if and maybe next year. And now, after all that pain, they're asking you to get excited about a quarterback who was practically retired 6 months ago. That's not just frustrating, it's heartbreaking. Because you can see the talent. You can see the potential. But you're watching it get buried under fear and conservative decision-making. And here's that detail I promised you earlier, the one that explains why this whole situation has the owner so fired up. According to sources close to the organization, there was serious internal debate about naming Sanders the starter. The coaching staff was split. Some wanted to roll with youth and energy. Others pushed for the safe veteran option. But when Kelce made his comments public, it essentially exposed that internal conflict to the world. Suddenly, everyone knew the Browns weren't confident in their own decision. And that's organizational embarrassment at the highest level. Because here's what happens next. If Flacco struggles against Cincinnati, and that's a real possibility, the pressure to pivot will be immediate and relentless. Fans will be screaming for Sanders. Media will be questioning every play call. And those 2 rookies who were allegedly not ready will get thrown into chaos, not with support and a plan, but as human fire extinguishers for a problem they didn't create. That's not development. That's desperation. And it does those young quarterbacks no favors. But here's the truth nobody wants to admit. This isn't really about Joe Flacco. It's about an organization so afraid of looking foolish that they're missing their chance to do something bold. And in this league, bold wins. Bold builds. Playing it safe only delays the inevitable reckoning. Jason Kelce saw through all the corporate speak and veteran leadership narratives. He saw a team with talent choosing fear over opportunity. And he called it exactly what it is: trouble. Because when you have something that might be special and you hide it behind yesterday's news, you're not managing risk. You're creating it. So here's where we stand. The Browns have chosen their path, at least for now. Joe Flacco is QB1, and 2 promising rookies are watching from the sidelines. Jason Kelce has said his piece, and allegedly, an owner is fuming about the attention. But the real question isn't whether Kelce was right to call them out. The real question is what happens when his prediction comes true. Because if this season goes sideways, if Flacco struggles, if those rookies never get their shot to develop properly, then Cleveland will have wasted another year, another opportunity, and another chance to break the cycle that's defined this franchise for decades. So what do you think? Is Jason Kelce right about the Browns being in trouble? Should Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel be starting week 1? And do you think this quarterback decision will haunt Cleveland all season long? Drop your takes in the comments below. I want to hear which quarterback you'd choose and whether you think the Browns are making a massive mistake. And if you want to stay updated on all the NFL drama that doesn't make the highlight reels, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. Because trust me, in Cleveland, nothing ever goes according to plan. And this quarterback situation? It's just getting started. The real fireworks haven't even begun yet.